Welcome back to 99 Problems. In this video, I'll be going through questions 51 to 60. And by now, if you've attempted any or all of this paper, you might be thinking the questions are a bit meh, a bit boring. But, not all of your revision has to be perfect, right? It doesn't all have to be super challenging. Some of it can be in your comfort zone. Anyway, so let's get into this question on the screen. It says, a garden is in the shape of a rectangle, ABCD, and a semicircle. AD is the diameter of the semicircle. Carol is going to cover the garden with fertilizer. A box of fertilizer costs £4.99. Carol has been told that one box of fertilizer will cover 12 meters squared of garden. Work out the cost of buying enough fertilizer to cover the garden completely. So it's pretty clear we have to find the area of the garden, and then that's going to help us find how many boxes we need. So let's go ahead and find the area of this garden. So let's look at the rectangle first. The area of that rectangle is going to be the length times the width, 8.4 times 5.6. And let's use our calculators today. This whole paper is classified as calculator, but now and again I've been doing some questions saying, okay, I'll treat this as non-calculator, but really they're all calculated questions. So this is 8.4 times 5.6, 47.04. And then let's do the semicircle. So the area of a semicircle is the area of a circle, which is pi r squared, and then half of that, so divide by 2. The radius here is going to be half the diameter. How do we know what the diameter is? Well, it's this length down here. It's the same as 8.4. So half of 8.4 is 4.2. Therefore, the area is going to be pi times 4.2 squared, and all of that is divided by 2. All right, let's go ahead and put that into our calculator. So we've got pi times 4.2 squared, and then divide by 2. So we get 27.7, about 27.7, something like that. So the total area will be those two things added together. Then what do we do with that total area? We need to divide that by how much a box covers. So let's go ahead and add those together. So we'll add 47.04 to that answer. We need to divide that by 12, and that gives us 6.229. Okay, so let's just go ahead and write down what we just did. So we did the total area, we divided by 12, and we got 6.229, about 6.229. All right, now remember we're talking about boxes. You can't get 0.229 of a box of fertilizer. So how many boxes do we need to buy to get that extra 0.3 of the area of the garden? We actually need to buy 7 boxes. So we're going to have to buy 7 boxes of fertilizer here. 7 times 4.99, and that's going to give us our cost. So 7 times 4.99, and we get our cost of 34.93. So that should be the final answer there. So let's just go ahead and write that down. So work out the cost of buying enough fertilizer. We had to buy 7 boxes, and that was 34.93 pounds. Okay, so that was a 5-mark question. And this question has a second part. It says, Carol finds out that one box of fertilizer will cover more than 12 meters squared of garden. Explain how this might affect the number of boxes she needs to buy. Well, if it covered enough to bring this number down below 6, then we might only need 6 boxes. So we might need fewer boxes. So we could say just that. Okay, so she might need fewer boxes. Alright, so that was question 51. Question 52 says the diagram shows a shape made by overlapping 2 identical squares. The area of the shaded region is 25% of the area of each square. Work out what fraction of the area of the whole shape is shaded. Alright, so let's try to break down what they're telling us. So the area of the shaded region is 25% of the area of each square, and they are identical squares. So another way of saying 25% is a quarter. So we could call this a quarter of this square here, and then this would be 3/4. And it's also a quarter of this square over here, and this would be 3/4 of that square. Okay, so it's not a quarter of this whole shape. That's not what I've written here. It's a quarter of each individual square. Now, looking at these fractions, we need to figure out, like, if we broke this up, this whole shape up into sections, what fractions would we use to represent those? Or another way to think about that is to write the areas in a ratio. So if we wrote this in a ratio, this would be 3 parts of the area, the middle would be 1 part of the area, and the other side would be another 3 parts of the area. Let me just backtrack actually. So if we just tried to represent this individual square in a ratio, we would say this would be 1:3. So these two areas are in the ratio 1:3. And then if we did it for this square as well, we would say it's 3:1. So those 3 ratios connected would be 3:1:3. That gives us a good idea of the answer straight away if we write that as a ratio. So we can say the ratio of areas equals 3:1:3. And therefore, that 1 representing the ratio for the shaded area, the fraction that is shaded is going to equal 1 out of the total parts. So there's 7 parts in that ratio. So the fraction will be 1/7. Now, if that's not quite satisfying enough, or you feel like it's not quite making sense yet, another way to draw this diagram, right, would be if you drew 2 squares, and you could represent them slightly differently. You could draw them like this. So they'd have a corner overlapping. And this would still represent a quarter of each square, this bit here, and then we would have 3/4 left over. If you split that up into the individual quarters of the squares, how many quarters do we have? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarters in that entire shape, and 1 is shaded. So we've split that shape up into 7 equal parts. I was saying quarters, they're not technically quarters of the whole shape, they're quarters of the individual squares, but we've split it up into 7 equal parts, 1 being shaded, so this would be 1/7. Anyways, hopefully I've proved to you that that's 1/7, and so let's move on. So final answer there, 1/7. And there's other ways to come up with that answer as well. All right, question 53 says, soap powder is sold in 3 sizes of box. A 2 kilogram box of soap powder costs $1.89, a 5 kilogram box of soap powder costs $4.30, and a 9 kilogram box of soap powder costs $8.46. Which size of box of soap powder is the best value for money? You must show how you get your answer. All right, so this is a best buys question. Whenever you have a best buys question, you want like a standard price. In this case, we're looking for pounds per kilogram in order to compare them. So let's start with the 2 kilogram box. Let's say 2 kilogram box, and let's get the price per kilogram. So how do we find that? Well, we take the price, divide by how many kilograms there are. Now this one shouldn't be too difficult because they're all in the same units. These can get quite tricky when they're all in different units and you have to standardize the units. But we've got an initial price per kilogram for the 2 kilogram box of 94.5p. Just to be clear, that's 0.945 of a pound, and that would be 94 pence. Okay, next one, let's do the 5 kilogram box. We have £4.30 divided by 5. Okay, so let's put that in, and we get 0.86 or 86 pence per kilogram. And then the 9 kilogram box is 8.46 divided by 9. Okay, 8.46 divided by 9 gives us 94p per kilogram. All right, so now we have the price per kilogram of each box. We can easily compare them, and we can see that the 5 kilogram box would be the best value for money. So just make sure you state that in your answer. easy way to lose marks is to not actually write down your answer clearly in the exam. Alright, so best value for money and then cheapest price per kilogram. I wouldn't be surprised if a Best Buys question shows up in the exams in 2020 because they seem to have not included that recently in the exams, at least from last year, or I don't remember one showing up. So anyways, question 54 says Ibra buys 3 kilograms of apples. He also buys 0.4 kilograms of mushrooms. The total cost is £6.93. 1 kilogram of apples costs £1.95. Work out the cost of 1 kilogram of mushrooms. Alright, so if we know the cost of 1 kilogram of apples, we can find 3 kilograms of apples just by multiplying it by 3. So 3 times 195. Well, that's like 3 times 2, take 15, so that's going to be 5.85. And then take that price away from our total cost, so 6.93 take 5.85. Well, difference of 1.08. And now we've taken the cost of the apples away. That must be the cost of the mushrooms. So therefore 400 grams, another way of writing 0.4 kilograms is 400 grams. That's 400 grams of mushrooms is 1.08. So how can we get 1 kilogram, the cost of 1 kilogram? Well, if we multiply this by 2.5, 400 times 2.5 is 1,000 grams, and that's going to be 1 kilogram. So we can also multiply this price by 2.5, and that will give us the cost of a kilogram. So 1.08 times 2.5 gives us 2.7 pounds. The cost of 1 kilogram of mushrooms, £2.70. Question 55 says Martin has 8 pints of soup in a pan. He also has 24 soup bowls. He puts 0.3 pints of soup into each bowl. How much soup has Martin left over? Well, how much soup has he given out? If he's got 24 soup bowls, 0.3 pints for every bowl, he'll be giving out 24 times 0.3 pints. 24 times 3 is 60, and then plus 12, so 72. So 24 times 0.3 is going to be 7.2. And then, well, if we started with 8 pints and we gave out 7.2, we'll be left with 0.8 pints, or 0.8 of a pint. All right, question 56 says Jan writes down 1 multiple of 9 and 2 different factors of 40. Jan adds together her 3 numbers. Her answer is greater than 20 but less than 30. Find 3 numbers that Jan could have written down. All right, so multiples of 9. That's 9, 18, 27, 36, 45. And then 2 factors of 40. Factors of 40, well, 40 could equal 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 3 doesn't go, 4 times 10, 5 times 8, 6 and 7 don't go. So that's all the factors of 40. And then Jan has got 1 multiple of 9 and 2 factors of 40, and they add to more than 20 and less than 30. All right, so what if we took 1, 2, and 18? That would be 21. Or we could take even 4 and 5 and 18, or 2 and 4 and 18, or 10 and 8 and 9. So there's lots of different answers to this question. As long as you fulfill all of the rules, then you should be fine. So what did I say first? I said 1, 2, and 18. That should be good for 3 marks. Question 57 says Amelia, Hayden, and Sophie did a test. The total for the test was 75 marks. Amelia got 56% of the 75 marks. Hayden got 8 out of 15 of the 75 marks. Sophie got 43 out of 75. Who got the highest mark? You must show all your working. Alright, so let's write these down a bit clearer. So Amelia was 56% of 75. Hayden was 8 out of 15 of 75. And Sophie was 43. That's a terrible 3. What was that? 43 out of 75. So that's already kind of given as a fraction. All right, so the question is, we want to be able to compare these. The question is, do you want to convert them all to percentages or fractions or scores? Well, this one's already at a fraction out of 75. So I think I'll go with this. So she got 43 marks in total. This one I'm going to try to convert to a mark. So 8/15 of 75. You can write this as 8 over 15 times 75. It's the same as saying of is multiply. And now when you've got a problem written like this, this is the same as dividing this number by 15 or this one by 15. So we can do 75 divided by 15 here. I know 15 goes into 75 5 times. Then we would do 8 times 5 and we would get a mark of 40. All right, so 8/15 of 75 is 40. So Hayden got 40 marks, Sophie got 43. And now we need to work out Amelia's score. 56% of 75. Well, how do you work out a percentage? One way is to write it like this: 56 out of 100 multiplied by 75 over 1. It's one way to figure out percentages. Now 75 over 100, that's like 3/4. So we could also write this as 56 over 1 times 75 over 100. That's perfectly fine to rearrange the numbers like that when you're multiplying fractions. Not when you're adding, but when you're multiplying, you can move the numbers around like this. So let me just bring this down here. Ran out of room there. We've got 56 times 3/4. And then I can do 56 divided by 4. 56 divided by 4, that's 14. 14 times 3 is 30 plus 12. So that's going to be 42. So that was Amelia's mark. Amelia got 42, Hayden got 40, and Sophie got 43. So who got the highest mark? It was Sophie with 43 marks. So let's just go ahead and again make sure we state our answer. So Sophie got the highest mark, 43. And that was for 3 marks. Question 58 says there are 6,760 people at a rugby match. 3,879 of the people are men. 1,241 of the people are women. A quarter of the children are girls. Work out how many boys are at the rugby match. All right, so they've told us the number of adults. If we add those together, let's go ahead and do that quickly. 3879 plus 1241. 10, carry the 1. 7 plus 4 is 11, 12. Carry the 1, 11. Carry the 1, 5. And so that's the number of adults. Let's take that away from the total at the rugby game. 6, 7, 60. Take 5, 1, 20. 0, 4, 6, 1. So this number here is going to be the number of children at the rugby match. And if a quarter of the children are girls and 3/4 are going to be boys, so let's work out what a quarter of that is. So let's say divide that by 4 is one way of doing it. Divide by 4, 16 divided by 4 is 4. 40 divided by 4 is 1. So we get 410, which is a quarter of 1640. And then that times 3. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. 10 times 3 is 30. So final answer there for the boys would be 1,230. Okay, on to the next one. Question 59 says Ravi buys some hats to sell at a school fete. He buys 40 hats for a total of £120. Ravi sells 3/4 of these hats at £450 each. He reduces the selling price of the remaining hats to £4 each. He sells half of the remaining hats at this selling price. Work out the profit that Ravi makes. Okay, so he's bought 40 hats. Let's firstly work out, actually they tell us the cost, so let's just write that down. The cost is 120 pounds. Then we want to work out the revenue. Revenue means the total that he made. So we're not thinking about cost at the moment. We're just thinking about the total that he made back from the sales. So this is going to be 3/4 of 40 is 30. And he sold them for $4.50 each. So 30 times $4.50. And then we need to add on the other hats he sold. So he reduced the price to £4 and he sold half of the remaining hats at this selling price. So he had 1/4 left and he sold half of those. So half of 1/4 is 1/8. So he sold 1/8 of the hats at £4 each. Well, you could do 1/8 times 40, or you could think of 40 divided by 8. That would be 5 hats times £4 each. So this is going to give us the total that he made. 30 times 4.5, or 30 times 4 is 120. Half of 30 is 15. 120 plus 15 is 135. Plus 5 times 4 is 20. So his total revenue is 155. And then the profit is the revenue take the cost. So 155 take 120 gives us £35 profit. All right, not too bad for Ravi. Well done, made £35. Hopefully that was worth his effort. That question was 5 marks. Question 60 says, living to 100 years old. 1 in 3 babies born last year are expected to live to 100 years old. 720,000 babies were born last year. How many of these babies are expected to live to 100 years old? Well, they tell us 1 in 3 babies born are expected to live to 100, so we need 1/3 of 720,000. And well, if we just look at the 72 divided by 3, what goes into 72 3 times? Well, you could do a bus stop division if you're still not sure. So when you're doing a bus stop division, you look at this first number, 7, and then divide it by 3. How many times does 3 go into 7? 3 goes into 7 twice. That would be 6 with 1 left over. So you carry that 1 across to the next number. 12 divided by 3 is 4 with no remainders. So 72 divided by 3 is 24. So if 72 divided by 3 is 24, 720,000 divided by 3 is going to be 240,000. Okay, so 240,000 babies born last year would live to 100 years old. I don't know when that statistic was made or if it's even true, but I don't know, kind of interesting, I guess. But that was question 60 for 2 marks. Hopefully that was a pretty straightforward one. Hopefully you found this video useful or helpful. Please leave a like if you did. And just before I go, I wanted to look at a puzzle that I posted. So here it is. This is a puzzle I posted on my channel the other day. So pause the video now if you want to have a go at this. It's not meant to have any words to it. It's meant to just be completely self-explanatory as is. But I did, post a little explanation when I did put it up. You're looking for this blank. So you're looking for some pattern to fill in to put in a number here where this question mark is. And I also gave a hint that the 7 is not a typo. So the 7 is not a mistake. So you need to find a pattern that would fit for all of those numbers. And a few people got the answer. It took me a while to solve actually, but I was pretty satisfied when I finally cracked it. I thought that was cool, a cool puzzle. So if you want to hear the answer, here it is. So the trick is that you think that it's the difference. So each one you think you're subtracting. So 99 take 72 is 27, 45 take 27 is 18, 39 take 18 is 21, and so then you would think this is 15, 36 take 21, and then that works for 21 take 15 is 13. Then you get to the final one, 21 take 13 should be 8, not 7. So then you say, okay, this is a mistake, this should be 8. It's not a mistake, there's a different pattern. And actually, if you add the digits, so 7 plus 2 plus 9 plus 9, that's 18 plus 9 is 27. Then you do it for this one. This is 9 plus 9 is 18. 9 plus 12 is 21. So then this one is going to be 9 plus 3 is 12. And this works as well if you keep going. This would be 10 plus 3 is 13, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So that's the actual solution to this problem. It's 12. Well done to those that got it correct. Really cool problem by Nob Yoshigari, I think is his name. Sorry, Nob Yoshigahara. He's a famous puzzle maker, and this is one that he considers one of his best, he says. So yeah. Alright, so that was it. Again, please leave a like if you appreciate what I do. I really do appreciate the likes. And also subscribe if you want to see more content. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.